Narcan, a nasal spray that reverses the effects of an opioid overdose, was recently given FDA approval to be sold over the counter. Today, we spoke to several people about how this kind of access could be a real game changer. Terry Mahan, who lost his son Danny, wishes it would have been available back then.
It saves lives, and it saves lives in a hurry, because when you're overdosed on fentanyl, you don't have much time. Your body starts shutting down. So friends of mine in law enforcement and other types of agencies have said that's what brings them back to life in a hurry.
Prior to becoming available for purchase, Narcan was specifically used by law enforcement and first responders. As the concern over fentanyl continues to grow across the country, experts say it's time for parents to make sure their kids know how dangerous and deadly this drug can be. And that brings us to our 12 News Bullhorn question. Do you think that teens should have access to Narcan? Yes or no? And right now, 57% of you say yes. Don't forget, you can weigh in by going to 12news.com/bullhorn. Caribe?
Thanks, Mark. I am joined now by Joronda Montaño, a prevention and wellness consultant. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, we hear a lot about fentanyl, but for those who maybe haven't researched it and don't know enough, what does fentanyl look like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? And how does it affect the body?
Let's start with how it affects the body, because it can be very difficult to detect for anyone, even trained experts. And so the way that it affects the body is it slows down everything. It slows your central nervous system. So that means your breathing is lower, your heart rate is lower, your body temperature lowers. It is something that will depress the system. You can think of it as slow or no-go anymore.
That sounds scary. And you said it's very difficult to detect.
It's very difficult to
Which
detect.
complicates this even more. You know, in schools, there's no denying that fentanyl it's there, right? So at what age do we start talking about our kids about fentanyl?
You know, we need to start talking to our kids about drugs or substances as early as possible, making sure they have boundaries on what they do and don't do. And when we're talking about fentanyl, we're typically on a school campus thinking that kids are getting access to it accidentally. Kids are not typically looking for it. It's mixed in so many things right now that if they're trying things and unfortunately get poisoned by fentanyl, it was completely accidental.
Okay, but how do you start the conversation with your kids, especially if they're young? I have a 9-year-old, so how would I even start that with her? I mean, is it as simple as saying, don't do drugs? I mean, is she going to understand something like that?
I think now, because kids have so much access to information online and through friends, and you just have that constant conversation happening on campus, they do know things much earlier. But anyone who's watching this tonight has an excellent way to start the conversation. It starts with, I just heard this tonight, this conversation, and I want to make sure we're on the same page. Let's have a conversation about this.
Okay, so what if you know that your child is doing opioids? How does that conversation go?
You know, kids are really afraid that they're going to get in trouble. Think about teenagers. That's probably one of the #1 concerns with parents. They're going to get in trouble. So make it this is not about getting in trouble. This is about making sure that our family is protected and you're protected. Be on the same page as your kids. Make sure that your kids know that you're on their team and coach them so that we can help them to get to adulthood successfully.
And that conversation, I mean, if you're telling them about punishments and consequences, is that the right route to go?
You know, they should know up front what your expectations are, and if there are consequences that are natural, and then consequences if they don't do what's expected. Again, you're on the same team, and the idea is not to constantly punish them,
right,
but to help them and train them so that they can make these decisions when you're not with them.
Yeah,
That's
you want to
really
keep the
what's important.
conversation open, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't want them trying to hide, things even more. The phone, do you have to be checking the phone? Like, is this the reality? You got to be on top of your kid's phone to see what they're looking at.
You know, as a preventionist, I've been with thousands of kids in prevention presentations, and what I hear most often is they don't feel comfortable talking to their parents. So make sure that they understand there is a probability and a likelihood that you can or will check their phone. It shouldn't be a surprise.
Okay.
They shouldn't feel like my parents are going to take my phone and I would never know. They should know up front that this is an expectation. And again, you wouldn't let them go and let me say it this way. We teach them how to wash the dishes. We teach them how to sweep the floor, teach them how to use their phones as well, and let them know I'm going to check to make sure you're using it appropriately.
Okay. All right, Joronda, thank you so much for joining us. We have a phone number. If you want to learn more about opioids and you want to speak to an expert, the Arizona Opioid Assistance and Referral Line, it's available 24 hours. It is free of charge. All you have to do is call the number there on your screen. The number is 1-888-688-4222, and you'll be able to talk to certified nurses and pharmacists about opioid use as well as different treatment services. Mark, we'll send it back to you.